It's not a drill. And it's currently.
Hello.
It's 2:52.
Where are you right now?
I heard one gunshot. And we thought it was a drill initially, but it's not. Hopefully I live through this. At around 2:30, we heard a gunshot in my AP Environmental Science class, and we initially thought it was a drill, and then we heard more gunshots, and that was when we realized this was not a drill.
We're on lockdown because there was an active shooting. We thought it was a fire drill and went outside, and then people started running because there were shots. I didn't hear them personally, and then I started running.
That this has happened so much, that school shootings have happened so much, to the point that we need drills for them almost as often as fire drills is unacceptable. I call on the legislators of this country to take action and stop this from happening.
I went running around trying to find out where I was supposed to be, and I got locked out of my classroom with a couple other kids, and we couldn't get into a classroom. We were all stuck in the hallway, kind of just running. We didn't know where he was. We couldn't hear the gunshots anymore.
How did you know there was a he? So you heard shots?
Yeah, we did hear shots.
And did you think instantly, oh my god, those were gunshots? Or did you think it was balloons popping, as one student told me? And how would you even know what it would sound like?
I thought it was a drill because they told us we would have police officers who were going to be firing blanks to, scare us, get us, trained for this. So no one took it seriously until I heard, screaming. It was the worst screaming you'll ever hear. It was awful,
The other kids that were in the class there?
I don't know, but one kid here, I spoke to another student here. Today was a fire drill. They had a fire drill and also a gun arm drill supposed to be today. And supposedly the shooter is a kid. He was wearing a black vest with a red shirt. I overheard the cops talking on the radio.
There are 3 more funerals planned here in South Florida today. This as more than 100 students are getting on buses to go to the state capitol to lobby lawmakers on the state's gun laws. Meantime, we are hearing for the first time from some of those who survived this carnage. A warning, this is emotional and maybe difficult to listen to. Nicholas Cruz in court Monday, the confessed school shooter never looking up. Charged with 17 counts of first-degree murder after the rampage at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. Prosecutors now saying it's too early to talk about any kind of plea deal.
I just prepared to die.
It comes as those caught in the gunfire are sharing their stories for the first time. English teacher Dara Haas was in the first classroom targeted by Cruz.
So at first you thought this was just the drill?
I thought it might be the drill, and I went to shut the blinds, and then I turned to say, turn the lights off. And when I turned, I saw my student. I saw him, and he was bleeding.
14-year-old Alex Schachter had been shot.
And my students, they were so brave.
Haas grabbed her cell phone.
And I called 911, and they asked if I could help. I could get to my student that was injured, and I couldn't get over to him. And then 911 said, he's coming back. Because he already shot my room twice. Wasn't that enough? But no, he's coming back. And I figured if I have to go, I'm going to hug my students closer. And I kissed my students on their head and, trying to comfort them.
Schachter and 2 more students, 14-year-old Alina Petty and 14-year-old Alyssa Al-Hadef, were killed in her classroom.
It's so hard to grasp that I lost their sweet little faces.
One building over, amid the chaos,
I was locked out of all the classrooms.
16-year-old 11th grader Jack McLeod trapped in a hallway with nowhere to hide.
And you couldn't get in that first door?
I could not get into that classroom.
Then a math teacher the kids call Mama Trezino did what she was trained never to do.
I broke protocol. So I opened my door and looked out, and here's a group of children with an adult, and he goes, "Can we come in?" I said, "Everybody come in as fast as you can."
At 65, Mary Trezino is a year away from retirement.
I turned to the kids and I said, "I want you to know that if anybody comes through that door to harm you, they have to come through me. I will be the first offense. They will have to shoot me to get to you, and maybe that will give you a chance."
It would be 90 minutes before the SWAT team finally came to their rescue.
What's going on in America?
I don't know, but these children are going to change it. This young man and all of his schoolmates are going to change it.
Eventually, we will heal, but now's the time to make a change and to do something.
English teacher Dara Haas had given her students an assignment to write a poem. She got Alex's poem texted from his father while we were there.
Life is like a roller coaster. It has some ups and downs. Eventually it all comes to a stop. You won't know when or how, but you will know that it will be time to get off and start new. It's not fair that they had to be taken. It's not fair.
Savannah, Nicholas Cruz, the confessed gunman, has yet to explain why.
Carrie, there are no words, but what powerful stories we heard just now. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. Right now we're in a school, an active shooter. It's not a drill, and it's currently.
Hello.
It's 2:52.
Where are you right now?
I heard one gunshot, and we thought it was a drill initially, but it's not. Hopefully out of this. At around 2:30, we heard a gunshot in my AP Environmental Science class, and we initially thought it was a drill, and then we heard more gunshots, and that was when we realized this was not a drill.
We're on lockdown because there was an active shooting. We thought it was a fire drill and went outside, and then people started running because there were shots. I didn't hear them personally, and then I started running.
That this has happened so much, that school shootings have happened so much, to the point that we need drills for them almost as often as fire drills is unacceptable. I call on the legislators of this country to take action and stop this from happening.
Isabella Gomez is a student. She's a 10th grade student here. She was here when this happened yesterday. She has unfortunately lost friends in this. And Alicia Blonde has been teaching at the school for several years, for 18 years actually. She taught the suspected shooter, Nicholas Cruz. She's also a teacher of Isabella's. Isabella, let me start with you. You were in class yesterday. Tell me what happened.
We were in class and it was just a normal day, and the fire alarm went off. We thought nothing of it. I just thought, wow, this is a really late fire drill. So we all started rushing outside. People were screaming, and we were like, oh my gosh, maybe it's a real fire. We all started going down the back staircase, down to the second floor. Once we reached there, all you hear is just these loud, like, pop, 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 like at least 3. So I was about to grab the door. I turned around. We all started running, and as soon as we were all on our way up to the 3rd floor, you just hear the guy just open the back staircase door where we were and just started shooting, like screaming. We all started running, ran into our classrooms, dove in. As soon as we closed the door, I don't know who couldn't make it in their rooms, the girls I saw, but all you hear is the screaming and shooting once we
And you and I were
door.
looking at videos. It was tragic. You passed by people who had been shot.
Bodies after just there, just covered
Did you
in
know
blood.
immediately what was happening when you heard that pop, pop, pop noise?
No, I thought it was like, we've been having a lot of drills lately. They've become very strict. We've been having a lot of meetings. The teachers have been very strict
About an active shooter.
About shooting, like code reds, codes black, fire drill, all of that. So I really thought at the beginning when we were going down the fire drill, I thought they were trying to scare us, because I heard that they did that in another school where like they started making like noises, but it was fake, just to see how we, like if the drills and all that stuff. So I was like, no way, but I wasn't just gonna stand there and just wait to see if it was a drill. I just ran, and I was so confused. I was like, guys, it's a gun, everyone get in the room. We were all taking care of each other. We dove in the back of the room in the corner and just waited, and we just covered our ears. It was insane.
Alicia, there was a conflict because there was an active shooter warning that went out, and then a fire drill, and those two things would cause you to behave differently with your students about locking doors and evacuating versus staying in place.
Absolutely. What happened first was there was the fire alarm went off, which was a little bit odd because we had a drill earlier on in the day. So I thought it was a little bit odd. It was also about 2:15 in the afternoon, which, you know, almost the last half hour of school for the drill to go off again. We were already outside. It was my planning period, so I didn't have kids in the room with me, but I evacuated from my room and went out to the front of the school, which is our zone where we're supposed to go. And then one of the administrators came out screaming, you know, code red, everyone get inside, you know, one of the PE coaches also screaming loudly, and we all just started running. I grabbed as many kids as I could. You know, the kids didn't really know where to go, And so I just corralled them, as many as I could, myself and some of the other Spanish teachers that were with me, because that's sort of our zone. And we corralled them into the auditorium. I guess we had maybe, I would say, somewhere around 250 kids in there, and maybe about 9 or 10 teachers and a couple of guidance counselors. The guidance counselors were wonderful in there. You know, the school staff did a yeoman's job of trying to get these kids to safety as much as they could, you know, with the information that they had. I guess from my understanding, the fire alarm went off because once he started shooting, the smoke set off the fire alarm, but he was already in the building. You know, I guess the most frightening part was that, you know, they asked us to get down into the auditorium, and what was most frightening for me was watching these kids, you know, texting their parents, telling their parents that they love them, you know, crying, trying to comfort them, and at the same time, you
trying
know,
to figure out how to stay alive.
Fearing for myself, and, you know, thinking about my own kids, and you know, it was a horrific scene. And you know, Douglas, like I said, I've been at Douglas for 18 years. It's such a fabulous school. We're positive, we're passionate, and we're proud to be Eagles. That's our motto. And we have such fabulous kids, you know, kids that are there to learn, to educate themselves. We have such talented students. We have, you know, an award-winning band. We have, you know, kids that win national science awards. We have kids that go on to Ivy League schools. I mean, Douglas is a wonderful school. And for these kids who are there at the last half hour of school to get an education, and for this to happen, it's just so unfair, and it's just so wrong, and we need to do something.
Well,
we need to do something as a society.
The president said, Isabella, we are here for you, whatever you need, whatever we can do to ease your pain. What do you think of the president's comments?
I mean, I really don't think that there is anything he could do. He said that if something's happening, go to your teacher. What could our teachers do in that situation rather than save themselves just as we were? I feel like he really needs to take into consideration all this gun control. There's no reason that a kid, 19 years old, that's been investigated already, and not even a year ago, being able to purchase a AR-15 in Broward County right here, and he only got expelled. They didn't even like put him into a hospital, nothing for like a mental health, nothing. Like, something needs to be taken care of. I don't know.
Alicia, you taught this man.
Yes, I did.
Nicholas Cruz, probably about 4 years ago, so he would have been...
He was a sophomore.
10th grade, probably. Yes. What do you know of him?
I remember him being a very quiet student. He has a Hispanic background. I remember that he didn't really like to speak Spanish too much. I think there was some pride issue there. He didn't feel comfortable in his own skin, in his own culture. He was very quiet. He sometimes turned in assignments, sometimes not. I tried to, you know, break him a little bit and try to get into him a little bit and ask him questions and, hey, what's going on with you? I believe he was in JROTC at the time. Right. So sometimes he would come in uniform. And I communicated a couple of times with the JROTC professor and said, you know, hey, what's going on with this kid? I know, you know, that the members of JROTC are usually, you know, they're very disciplined students. And so him being in JROTC, exactly, it was not, exactly, very, very out of character. And, you know, I remember him physically, you know, small in stature, you know, a nice looking kid, but very quiet.
Did you know him?
I used to see him around school all the time. He was just a really strange kid. Actually, they wouldn't let him bring a backpack to school. He had to either bring a paper bag, like a Ziploc bag, and I'd always see him. He'd always wear like bandanas all around his face. He'd carry a folder, and he just walked in the weirdest way. He'd stare at you. I actually got, like last year, I got in an argument with him when we bumped into each other, and he like pushed me, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he just like storms off. He's a really strange kid. I always used to say like, "Wow, he just looks like no good." Like he just looks.
Were you one of those kids who was calling or texting their parents? What did you say to them?
I called my mom. First, I texted my brother. I was like, Daniel, I love you. if I don't make it home, I'm sorry. Just know I love you. Thank you for everything. And I called my mom. I was like, Mom, there's a school shooter. I don't know if I'm going to make it out. I'm hiding behind a desk. I never thought I'd have to say that to my mom. I just felt so bad. And like there was not really good signal in the freshman building. It's really bad on the 3rd floor especially. And I was just like losing connection. They couldn't really hear me. All they was hearing was that I was just in a shooting. My dad didn't really understand what was going on. He just thought that there was just a shooter, and then he sees the news, the cops everywhere, my brother's rushing over here. I just thought it was my last day yesterday. I didn't think I was going to make it out.
That is a thought no student should have to have in their school, and it's a text and a phone call that no parent should have to receive.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for what you've been through, but thank you for sharing your views and telling us about what you saw happen to both of you. Alicia Blonde is a longtime teacher here at the school, and Isabella Gomez is a student here.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
And Sherman, the FBI and local police agencies are still at the school right now, talking to students and staff, hoping to get answers.
Matt Musil was live near the school in Parkland. This is heartbreaking, we know. Matt?
Yes, it is, Len and me. Of course, photographer Bob Luna and I were at West Palm Beach covering spring training for the Astros when we got the call to come down here. We've spoken with a number of students, parents, former students. They are all in shock. Let me just tell you this. We just spoke with a former student, Alexa Medic. She actually walked down the hall with the accused shooter, Nicholas Cruz, after she heard shots fired. She said, hey, Nicholas, this is what she told me on camera. We will have it for our 10 o'clock show. She said, hey, I just heard shots fired. I'm surprised it wasn't you. Just kidding, like that. He had this reaction, what? And then they parted ways. She said, I heard more shots after that. She thinks there was a second shooter. That's the first we've heard of that, but she believes there was actually a second shooter. We'll see if that comes about or not. Again, authorities still inside searching. Now, more on Nicholas Cruz. I spoke with a number of students. Like I said, one of those was Adam Habona, a sophomore here at the high school, used to be a neighbor to Nicholas Cruz. Here's part of our conversation.
So everyone started saying it was Nicholas Cruz. I was not surprised. I really wasn't. I'd see him sometimes, and he was never doing, like, one time he stole something out of my neighbor's garage. The other time he was throwing coconuts at the houses. He's just not a good kid.
How do you go back to school now?
I don't know if I can. I really don't. That image is not going to be able to leave my head. It's horrific. It's really horrific. Seeing two children, 15 or 16 years old, laying down like that, it's insane. There's no way to describe it.
Adam told me he was on a first floor classroom. A young girl ripped open the door and dove into his classroom. He said, I saw a bullet hole in her leg. She was bleeding profusely. Someone put a tourniquet on her. He hopes that she's all right. We hope, of course, that she is. Again, a lot of questions about Nicholas Cruz, and what we do know are the students that knew him had a lot of question marks about him. He seemed like a troubled student, and at some point, authorities hopefully will find out exactly the motive behind this horrendous day here in Parkland, Florida.
Matt Musil, it is simply heartbreaking. Our prayers are with those students, staff, and their families. Thanks so much.
I actually was in the bathroom at the moment, and I came back to my classroom, and I knocked on the door, and the fire alarm went off, and principal came on the speaker and just said, everyone needs to evacuate right now. So that's what we did. As I was going down the stairs, I heard a couple shots fired. Everyone was freaking out, saying that it was a gun. And as we were walking, the whole class together, I actually was speaking to the suspect, Nicholas Cruz. And as I was speaking to him, he seemed very, I don't know what the word I want to say is, but he was trouble in middle school, so I kind of joked to him about it and said, I'm surprised you weren't the one who did it. And he just gave me a huh? So that's really what happened.
You were walking down the hall. He had already fired at that time.
Yes, sir, with him.
Weren't you scared?
In the moment I wasn't, because there was obviously definitely another shooter involved, but
Oh, you think he was not the only one?
No, definitely not.
Why do you say that?
Because when shots were fired, I saw him after the fact. So, and the shots were coming from the other part of the building. So there definitely had to be 2 shooters involved, I believe.
That's the first I've heard of that. Did you see any other students who were wounded?
No, sir.
All the kids to go outside so they could start shooting up. So they started shooting from the first floor up, because there's only 2 exits in the freshman building, so everybody started running to the other exits, but that's when the other shooter started coming up. So everybody, and then I thank God to this teacher who opened up her door and let all of us in. She got shot in the arm trying to open the door, and then the other teacher, he got shot in the head trying to cut the other students, and it was like an hour, like it felt like years waiting for them. And then after all that, we finally got out, and like they started yelling at us to keep focused and to pay attention ahead, the army people, because they didn't want us to see the bodies that they hid in the corner. They were putting mats over them so we wouldn't see them, but there was dust all over the floor from this weird thing they threw in there. They were trying to.
So you think there was more than? Do you think there was more than one shooter?
There's 3 shooters. That's what I hear. Definitely.
How terrifying. Hold on one second, Mal. How terrifying.
It was pretty damn terrifying because they were putting us through drills, and we all thought this was a drill. We thought this was a drill, but it wasn't. And then we just started hearing the gunshots, and it was really terrifying because my class, the class that I ran into, he started shooting through the door, and he came through and he started shooting the cabinets, and that's when he shot the teacher. And then he ran back outside to shoot the other teacher who was closing the other door for the kids, but he didn't get to close the door, and he was just there. And so we were all just sushing each other, like, shut up, just suck it up if you're crying, because we're not trying to get shot. Because he was in the hallway yelling, hey, hey, trying to taunt us and get us to say things, trying to get us outside. And that's when some other kid, like, he ran out because he thought it was free, but he got shot, and then we heard the groaning outside, and we couldn't do anything.
Well, so the shooter, tell me, besides, hey, what was he saying during
He
all
wasn't
this?
doing anything. He was legit. He just ran up the stairs, started shooting, and you could see a bunch of kids just going down that way, but stopping. But because the other shooter was coming, so everybody was
screaming and stuff.
Everybody was trampling each other because they were like, "Hey, do you hear that loud banging sound?" And we all thought it was like some kid joking on the stairwell because they're hollow, so you could just hit a stick and it sounds like it. But then we all were like, "Oh, this is real!" So we all just started running. It was really bad.
Now, one student told me that the shooter was wearing a bulletproof vest and a helmet. Did you see that?
I saw some other kid. When the other kid who came into the classroom, he was wearing some type of thing, and like, I don't know, but it was like I froze at that moment because you never know, because when the gun is like pointed towards you and the thing, you don't know what to do, and you kind of just like pause and you're just like, is this actually gonna happen? But I felt like he was going after all the teachers because a bunch of teachers got shot, and any of the kids who were in the way, they got shot.
Did you know? You didn't know him?
I want to bring in David Hogg. David is a senior at Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School. David, I am so sorry for what you've experienced in the last 24 hours. How are you doing?
I'm doing relatively okay, I would say. Some of my fellow classmates, especially my sister actually had 2 of her best friends die in this horrific incident, and it's been awful for her. And that's why I'm really speaking out today, is because I don't want something like this ever to happen again. I want us to take action, and I don't want this just to be another mass shooting. I want this to be the last mass shooting.
Wow, David, you are a well-spoken young man. Where were you yesterday when the shooting started?
So yesterday I was in my AP Environmental Science class. We had just taken out all of our notes, and we were about to pack up to leave we were about to leave school, and we hear a pop. And it happened to be a gunshot that echoed through the hallway. And because of that, my teacher actually went and closed the door, but as soon as she closed the door, the fire alarm was pulled. So this sick man could come and get more soft targets. Silly, not thinking critically. We walked outside, and that's when he started taking down even more people because of the fire alarm going off. And luckily, when we were actually going out to our fire evacuation zone, and as we were headed out there, a flood of people started running in the opposite direction, saying, go this way, go this way. So I followed the herd, and as we were running like in this one direction, we happened to be running towards the shooter. But thank God there was a janitor there that told us not to go any further, because there was because the gunman was right there. And he got us all into one classroom with the help of Chef Kurth, And as a result of that, I think they saved easily like 40 lives that day, just with 1 minute of action. And that's what I really want to push through, is the fact that just 1 small minute of action can make a huge difference. And that's what I want people at home to know. They can make a difference in their community. They can make a difference in the world. They can do that by calling out their congressmen, talking to government legislators, and letting them know this is not acceptable, because everybody is getting used to this, and that's not okay. There have been 18 more mass shootings than there needed to be this year at schools, and that's way more than we need. And it needs to come to an end, because the next thing you know, if you let this keep happening, it's going to be your kid that's next.
My God, David, you've got a better action plan than our own elected leaders. So while you were in the school, you said your sister was also there. Did you know where she was? I mean, this had to be a terrifying time.
It was absolutely horrifying, but we actually thought it was a drill initially, because we had been hearing about having a possible code red drill, which is essentially a drill where we have an active shooter drill to ensure that we can survive this type of situation. But once we were all in the room and we started seeing the headlines, we realized this was anything but a drill. This was life or death. And that actually was when I started recording, because I realized that if I died and if everyone else around me died, I wanted to have our voices heard. And if we couldn't carry on throughout time, our voices would echo through those videos that I recorded. And I wanted that to be known to the people, because people get used. People get used to what's going on, and that's not okay. We're habituating to this. And what happens when we do that is children are dying, and they will continue to die unless we stop it, stand up, and take action.
So, David, David, I am blown away with how eloquent you are. I mean, it's stunning to me. So when you were in that room, you heard, walk me through, you thought it was a drill and you only knew it was real from looking at headlines in your phone?
Yeah, on our phone. We saw it on Twitter once it was eventually trending, but then we also saw multiple headlines coming from local affiliates like WPLG, which is the ABC affiliate here. I think it was WSVN, which is Channel 7 here. Just all of them coming in and us looking them up, and that's how we were really able to find it. And that's how we knew this was anything but a drill.
So when were you first able to reach your family and let them know you were okay? You were inside the school, your sister was?
Yeah, so my sister had actually called me to ensure me, like, she wanted to make sure I was okay, actually, because I still thought this was a drill and it was no big deal, but she called me and she was okay. She was actually hiding in the back of our TV production set of the newscast where I'm actually news director for our school, WMSD TV. And anyways, I was able to reunite with my father, who's a former FBI agent, and my sister eventually later. But first I reunited with my father after the SWAT had come in and told everybody, get down, put your hands up, and we all ran out of there as fast as we could get out to the street. And once I took that first step out there, I realized this was not a drill. This was a major situation, and a situation that should never, ever have happened again. It's absolutely frustrating. The state that this country has been allowed to come to through the work of through politicians, honestly, just saying, yeah, thoughts and prayers go out to people, and we're going to propose all of these ideas. We don't need ideas. We need action. We need action from our elected officials, and we need action from the civic public, because without that, this is going to happen again.
Wow. David, without saying the name of this gunman, because he certainly doesn't need more attention, young heroes like you do.
Thank you for that.
Did you know this young man?
I did not know this young man. Although I did know people that knew him, based off what I've heard from them, I've heard that he was a loner, a bit of a socially awkward person, and a person that, sadly, we've created this archetype in society where we have the stereotypical school shooter, and that's kind of what this man seemed to be, except the only difference is this time he wasn't taken out and killed. He actually survived and didn't kill himself.
It's an awful reality that there are so many school shootings, but when you go to school on a daily basis,
it is.
Do you feel safe? When you went to school yesterday, did you think something like this could possibly have happened in your school?
I think this could have possibly happened in any school, and that's the sad reality of the situation that this country has come to. The fact that we've had 18 this year, and it's only February, is absolutely unacceptable. And the fact that I'm not even that surprised that it happened at a school, I'm surprised it happened in mine. But the fact that it happened at another school is not surprising at all to me, and that's absolutely terrifying, and it's something that we have to change.
David, as terrifying and awful, awful as this is, there's a small silver lining. that tomorrow, the young leaders of tomorrow, are extraordinary people like you. I'm so sorry that you had to experience this, and I feel one shred of optimism knowing that in the future, our country is going to be led by young men like you. David Hogg, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Let me tell y'all something. I don't think you understand. This is an illusion. They don't give a fuck how many conspiracies you talk about. They don't care if you riot in the street. They don't care if you riot on Instagram. They don't give a fuck. They're here to program your subconscious mind. How do you program the subconscious mind? Trauma, repetition, symbols. Those are the 3 ways to program the subconscious mind. And from there, the subconscious mind simply produces what it thinks is real. So what do you think is real, my brother? What do you think is real?
I've also asked the school board to make a part of every day some kind of anti-violence, anti-gun message. Every day, every school, at every level. One thing that I think is clear with young people and with adults as well is that we just have to be repetitive about this. It's not enough to simply have a catchy ad on a Monday and then only do it every Monday. We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
Breaking news. 2 shooters reportedly seen on the move. Over to you. Bob, over to you. Bob. Oh, shit. Yeah, gunshots apparently heard. Have all of the parents concerned. It's such a tragedy that this is happening in such a lovely suburb. Police and chief in high alert. Investigators lead a search. A sources say there were 2 gunmen, but people claim there was a 3rd. It's hard to confirm. So, Bob, are people still panicking? Yeah, but it could have been worse. Our sources say this is some type of religious terrorist hate group with an insatiable thirst. Signing off, this is Action News. Remember, you heard it here first.
Your parents, you mentioned you were thrilled to give them hugs. You are in a very unique position because, Connor, your parents are police officers. Yeah.
Because my grandfather is a former state trooper.
When my dad picked me up, he picked me up about a mile that way down Pine Island Road, and he was coming from work. He turned on his lights and work truck because he works for BSO.
BSO is
So
Broward
when he finally
Sheriff's
found me,
Office.
There with you. David Hogg was in school when the shooting started. His father is a retired FBI agent, so he
My friend said Mr. Beagle, which is his name, is not moving. He was laying in the doorway and he is not moving. She said, I don't know if this is real or fake, because we had rumors going around the school that the police would do a fake code red with fake armed gun, fake guns, not actual, but sounding real. And I thought at the beginning that this was just, it was all a drill. It was just a drill. Until I saw my teacher dead on the floor.
We've all, okay, so it was the first fire drill that happened this morning. It was the first fire drill this morning. And then there was a second one, and we were all thinking, oh, it's either a real fire drill or they're just doing this again on accident. And like, we thought this was a drill because they said they'll use blanks in a drill, but they actually didn't. They, it was real.
You found out, and they were nervous, what's going on? I said, look, you know, they could be practicing a code red. They talked about doing this. They even talked about police coming on and, you know, shooting blanks, you know, to see what would happen, you know. And I said, it's kind of weird.
Active shooter. It's not a drill. I heard 1 gunshot. And we thought it was a drill initially, but it's not.
The fire alarm got pulled. Where it was like a movie scene. There was gunpowder all over the floor. It was just so real, but it felt so fake.
I was wrapping up in math class. As you know, it was the end of the day, and we were pretty much just packing up. We heard a few pops, and at the time we didn't really think much of it, as it could have been, you know, a kid throwing something, or maybe a chip bag opening in the hallway.
You didn't hear any shooting?
That we cannot accept this. I can't do it, Wolf. I'm sorry. We can't do it.
Yeah.
For all of your friends at school, is everybody okay that you know?
Yes, I do, and everyone in my classroom that I was in is okay, including the teacher and the administrator that was spectating us.
All right, well, thank you.
Including the teacher and the administrator that was spectating us. All right, well, thank you.
Police presence here at the hospital as the suspect here.
Yo, what suspect? Where is he?
Care of in the hospital there, and then the questions will begin, the interview process. And
where is he?
Figure out exactly what led.
There's nobody on that.
Multiple fatalities here.
Are you fucking kidding me?
There he goes. He just went from the back of the ambulance on the gurney and into the hospital.
Bullshit, there was nobody on that.
And now
when you look into it, you just haven't looked into it, that's all. Eddie. I used to say the same stuff.